Make sure members of the military will still get their paychecks. Joining us now to tell us more about her plan is Texas Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. Senator, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Shannon.
I want to start with this August 2nd date. There has been some debate on Capitol Hill about whether or not it is truly the date that we run out of any new measures for extending our allowance to borrow any more money. How do you feel about August 2nd?
I don't think August 2nd is the drop-dead date, but it is something in August, maybe later in August, and I think all of us want to try to come to some agreement, if we can, long before the drop-dead date. If we get to that point, that is not going to provide the long-term answers that Republicans are looking for.
If we do get there, how much power do you believe the federal government, the Treasury, has to prioritize the obligations that we have financially?
Well, complete priority and complete capability, unless Congress passes a bill that is signed by the president that sets that priority. And that's why I'm trying to pass a bill right now that will assure that our military people don't even have to worry about a late payment. We want to assure that if they're over in Afghanistan or Iraq or anywhere in harm's way, that their families don't have to worry about paying the mortgage on time.
And I understand that might be one of the few areas right now on Capitol Hill that you actually have some bipartisan support.
Yes, absolutely. I think and Social Security would be covered because that comes from a different fund anyway. So you have Social Security covered. You can do this as a first priority, and I think we should. I don't think people should be worried about payments in the categories where it is a life or death situation.
But I'm quite sure that Republicans understand just how well it works when Democrats talk about the fact that maybe those checks won't go out. Do you think maybe getting some of this legislation passed would take that conversation off the table?
Well, it should. We shouldn't be having the president saying he might not be able to send Social Security checks out. He can. He absolutely can. It's a different fund. They know that. So I think it is a scare tactic. What we need to do is roll up our sleeves and get the long-term answers. We need to save Social Security by extending the age at 3 months a year. That's my proposal. We need to assure that people can see the cuts in spending. Even the Moody's and Standard & Poor rating agencies have said not only do we want to see the debt limit raised, but we want to see $4 trillion in cuts, or we might lose our credit rating anyway.
And I want to ask you about those warnings from those credit agencies. How much of a responsibility do you feel in that matter? Because they're not only talking about the fact that fundamentally and content-wise we have to come up with solutions, but the fact that the uncertainty in the meantime is what seems to be rattling them and sparking some of these latest warnings. As a lawmaker who's on one side of this, how much responsibility do you feel about getting a resolution so those downgrades don't happen?
I think we all want to assure that there is no default. We think we have some time, but we need to solve it before the jitters set in. I think there are a few more scare tactics going on right now than are warranted. I think people like to quote that the rating agencies might downgrade American debt ratings if we don't do something now about raising the ceiling. But what people don't say is we've got to cut spending to keep those ratings up. And we don't want inflation to set in, and that's what would happen if we don't cut spending and we aren't able to see a way forward.
And I quickly want to ask you about the plan that's been floated by your colleague, the top Republican there in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, that essentially puts the onus of raising the debt ceiling onto the president. He could do that absent some provisions that would allow Congress to override him, but it would take 2/3 votes. Republicans don't have a supermajority in either house, so for a lot of folks, there is a question about why Senator McConnell would propose that when there are still negotiations going on. Do you support that plan? And what do you say to critics who say it's a bit of a sellout by the GOP?
Well, I think what Senator McConnell was trying to do is avoid this crunch, and he wanted to do something ahead of time that said there is a backfall position. It's not his first choice or second choice, but he's doing what a leader has to do, and that is show that in the end we can do something that none of us like, but will avoid this debt ceiling not being able to be addressed. Now, I will say that I would want to have a pledge signed by at least 41 Republicans in the Senate that we wouldn't vote for appropriations bills that go above 2008 levels, because that would assure that something would be done. So if the debt ceiling is raised and we have a pledge from at least 41 Republicans that say we will not vote for an appropriation bill that doesn't go above that doesn't go below the 2008 spending levels, then you've got something that is more concrete on the side of cutting spending.
All right, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, always good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Shannon.
Well, more